Ah, okay. I'm just going to come in with a prayer again, like we were heading into Lodge and focusing ourselves on ceremony, sacred ceremony, and just kind of imagine that you're in a circle standing around the sacred fire and just taking it in as it comes. And I ask Creator and Spirit Guides to lead me into teaching what needs to be taught and what can be taught, and just from my experience. So when you go through Sweat Lodge, and it doesn't matter whose lodge you go to, it's different every time. It's different for every person that's there. And whatever happens in the lodge affects everyone. It's not just you. Whatever is said, or whatever is prayed about, everybody can resonate with the same thing because we all are human and we all go through the same things pretty much, the same emotion. So getting ahead of myself a little bit, but just to know that we're in a community, we're in a friendship, and we're kind of in a marriage as well with everything around us, with Mother Earth, with each other, with Great Spirit. So it's really brings you together with everyone there. Great Spirit, we humbly come to you in a good way. Forgive us if we knowingly or unknowingly injured or killed any being on this day or any other. We meant no harm. We come together today to bring prayer, healing, and purification to all people of Mother Earth and to all creation. We ask for our lessons and teachings and to come into the rebirth through this sacred ceremony. Ask for blessing from Mother Earth, Father Sky, and all nations. We invite the Star Nation, all the four-legged, the creepy crawly ones, the winged ones, the swimming ones, the plant nation, the standing nation, the trees, the rock nation, all the waters of Mother Earth, the little people and the Fae nation, all things seen and unseen. We invite the spirits of the four directions, our spirit helpers, our guidance, and our ancestors to join us and show us what is we need to know and to understand and to learn. Show us what is needed now for all. Guide us in prayer and forgive us if we offend in any way or if we do something wrong. We mean no harm. From the doorway in to the doorway out. Aho, matakiwe ohasin. I'm going to play what's called the water song. Generally, the women prepare the water for the lodge, or a woman who's designated to, either one. And sometimes cedar is put into the water and put near the fire so that it warms the water, and the cedar, the aroma and the healing properties of the cedar in the water. Other times there's no cedar in it, it's just the water itself, but it's also considered very sacred as well as the fire.
Remember, share audio too.
There's sound. And then, oh, here we go. It says, we invite women everywhere to sing this Algonquin water song. And this song was written, I think it was the early 80s. It was written by Irene Wawati Jerome for Grandfather William Commandus, 2002 Circle of All Nations. It is recorded with permission, so I don't think there's any problem playing it. And a couple of the grandmothers in this video I have met. So it's kind of an honor for me to get to play this for you.
Granddaughter, the water can hear you. The water has memory.
Nibi,
Nibi,
Wabo,
Wabo,
Endayan,
Endayan.
Nibi wabo endayen aki misli nibi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 oh.
Water is the life's blood of our mother, the earth. Water is the lifeblood of our own body.
Nibi wabo endayen aki misli nibi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 ho.
To continue to pass on the knowledge that needs to be given unto the other generations. You are the keeper of the water.
Nibi wabo endayen aki misli nibi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 ho.
To make the change in this life condition that we're in, that great-grandchildren will stand up to this truth of what life is about, and to live it in such an honorable way, the way ancestors came to this earth.
Nibi wabo endayen aki misli nibi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 ho.
Each day when the sun rises, no matter how bad the day before might have been, there's a new chance for your hopes and dreams. And I say, Chimikwech, thank you for singing the water song.
Nibi wabo endayen aki misli nibi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 ho.
Isn't that a beautiful song? I love that song.
That was
Um,
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can look it up on YouTube there. It's called the water song. I think it's called the Algonquin, but it does give you the words there and it's easy to sing. It's usually you sing it in 4 rounds and give thanks at the end. So that's just an easy one to learn. So my plan is to talk about attending Sweat Lodge, and what's expected, what we do, what happens, what hopefully happens. But I just want to remind you, this has just been what I talk about is my experience. It's different for all traditions, different ways of doing things, different little protocols or etiquette. Luckily, the lodge that I attend, the lodge leader is very lenient on, he doesn't like etiquette. You know, you kind of have a basic common courtesy for everyone and for this sacredness of what's happening. But he's not like, you can only go this way, you can only do this, you can only do. He says there's no wrong way to pray. And that's what's freeing for me, is that you don't have to be worried about, excuse me, what you're doing wrong. Instead, just be there and be present, right? So that's kind of the tradition that I've been around the last, I don't know, 8 years maybe. So I just was going to talk about, like, when you come to the lodge, what it looks like. And when you walk in to the area, to the land that you're on, the Sweat Lodge entrance faces the east towards the sacred fire. And the east is so important for us because the east brings the new day, the sun, each morning. And so it's new, it's a rebirthing. We come to the Sweat Lodge to pray and to be given new life. It's like a new birth. It's like going through the canal. It's like the shape of the lodge is the womb we talked about before. It's the womb of Mother Earth. And it's completely around you. Once you're in there, you're surrounded by it. But we come to seek a new spiritual beginning. That's the ceremony. We come to give of ourselves for the people. It's kind of a way to suffer for the people. You can't really grow without having some discomfort. So that brings you your lessons, just like everyday life. You know, you have something that goes wrong, but it's actually a gift because you learned from it, right? So that's kind of what happens in the lodge as well. Sometimes things go awry a little bit for yourself and you say, oh, what's happening? And then it's like, oh, I see. Or you might realize later on, weeks later. So the fire keeper has been there ahead of you, most likely. He's been there probably early afternoon. We do our lodges at night. Generally, sometimes we do them during the day. It depends on who called the lodge. But so they're there getting the fire built and started. And when we walk into the ceremony, generally, if you haven't been there to be a helper, then you come in, the fire's probably already going. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry about that. I keep doing that. And I was going to just share. How do I do that again? Can you see that?
No, you haven't shared your screen yet.
I didn't share it. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay. So, where was I? When you come in and you see the fire, usually there's someone there to smudge you right away to clear any unnecessary energies off of you as you come into this space, and to cleanse your aura, your being, your mind. You kind of start to come in and you let everything go that's been in your day, your week, you know, when you come in and you're just cleared at this point. And then you should, as a member of the lodge family or someone who's new to the lodge, who's been invited, you bring a gift of tobacco, a pouch of tobacco that's wrapped in red cloth, and you offer it to the firekeeper, because he's been putting out the work, not just today, but throughout the whole time of gathering wood, of chopping the wood, of taking care of the wood. And it's the gift of the wood that gives its life for us and for the grandfathers to heat the grandfathers, the stones. So we offer the firekeeper tobacco, which is our prayer, it's our gift. And we also offer it to the water pourer. So we call it the water pourer. Some people say lodge keeper, whichever you're comfortable with. We always say water pourer because he's the one's in charge. So you bring the tobacco gift, and you just offer to them as a gift, and they usually accept them right away and say, thank you for coming, you are welcome. And then you go to the fire and you offer a bit of tobacco yourself to the fire. So like you hold tobacco over the fire, you might circle the fire in the sun direction 4 times. And this is just preference of what, you know, I do or what some people do. Other people just stay there and hold it over and say a prayer either out loud or silently, and then they just drop it into the sacred fire. So you've offered your prayer to Great Spirit here. So when he was building the fire, he started out with prayer and with tobacco in that space. He built a fire deck, the wood deck, and then he placed the rocks over the fire, the wood deck here, and placed the rocks. And it's up to the water pourer to say how many rocks are going to be used for that sweat. And it's usually spirit that says, I want you to use 32 rocks today. Or I want you to put them, 21 rocks. There might be reasons for the different numbers. And maybe only the water pourer will really know what that reason is. And I think sometimes they will say what the reason was, or other times they don't. They just say that was what was called. And so there can be 52 rocks in that pile. There can be 30, there can be 21, 17, there can be, I've been in lodges that have only had 7 rocks and were extremely hot through all 4 rounds. It just depends on what is happening with spirit and what is being prayed and what the intention is. And I've been in sweats with 30 some rocks and thought I was going to die. So it can be quite mind-blowing at the time, but I'll tell you about that later. So once he puts the rocks on, then he brings in the kindling that he's chopped or split, and it's usually like a foot tall or so, and then he starts on usually the east side of it, and then he places it upright around the grandfathers all the way around and leaves an opening in the east facing the lodge, the little opening about like so, little doorway. Then once all of the kindling is placed around, you leave it, you put a lot around, but you put it so that there's spaces in between the kindling so that there's air coming into the fire for it to breathe. As we all know, if you choke it out, it's not going to go very well. So, and then after the kindling, you place the bigger pieces around, and then it's kind of in a, on top of each other, and then over the top of the rocks. So I think I had a picture of that. See where on the top, there's kind of goes up the like a wall, and then there's over the top as well. And we want to keep the grandfathers covered at all times so that the heat is strong and they get red hot and white hot. They get really hot. And it takes about 2 hours or so, depending on how many rocks you have. Generally, if you have it in the, I don't know, 20, 21, 27 rocks, something like that, it usually takes a good 2 hours for them to get completely hot and red hot, all of them. And the firekeeper keeps watch on it and adds more wood, keeps them covered, keeps it really hot. And that's what the whole idea of is, to get the grandfathers as red hot and glowing as we can. And you'll get used to looking at the rocks after a few times, and you can tell. Sometimes you can't tell they're red, but you can tell by the looks of them how hot they are. So you can tell, they tell you. When the fire is lit, then also people that are there can see the altar is up near the entrance of the lodge there, and there's different ways altars are made. Sometimes it's just the Mother Earth, the mound of dirt. Sometimes it's a skull or something that is important to that family, that lodge family, or that tradition. And then people can set things of their own, a personal item on that altar to be blessed at that time during the lodge. So you might see somebody bring a necklace or a rock, a stone, a crystal, something important to them. And they just lay it on the altar, and then they can pick it up afterwards when the lodge is over. Oh, I forgot to mention that once the fire is lit, the ceremony has begun. So when you walk into this space, you're already in ceremony. And actually, if you know ahead of time, when the lodge has been called by someone, they try to call everybody or to notify each other 4 days before lodge. You have 4 days to prepare. And so that means no drinking, that means no drugs, that means no, that you want to be in a place of honor and you want to be ready for lodge. You prepare yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So when you come into that space, you're as clear as you can be. So 4 days before and 4 days after is what I was taught. You're still in celebration. The people who are there are usually sitting in chairs around the fire or on stumps or visiting or laughing, enjoying each other's company. While the rocks are heating up. Some people don't make it in till right before it's time to go in, because usually a door is called, like say the door will be at 7 o'clock tonight or 3 o'clock this afternoon, or they'll let you know ahead of time. So that pretty much is kind of the outward signs of lodge before you entered. the water pour will say when it's time that the rocks are ready, that it's time to go in, and he will call door time. He'll say, okay, everybody, it's time to go in. In the meantime, you've changed clothes. You've come just in your regular clothes, and you usually bring something to wear in the sweat lodge. Now, the important thing here is that you don't want to wear anything with metal on it because it gets really hot. And when that metal heats up, it burns, and you know it real quick. I think everybody does it at least once. The people that don't think about it, especially men who wear something with zippers or buttons, or women that wear anything with buttons or metal on, is just, it's not, it's not like you can't do that. You can if you want to, but it's really miserable if you do, and it hurts. So just keep that in mind. Men usually wear shorts. Women, it depends on your tradition. Some women just wear, shorts and a tank top or something. I was more traditional. I wore a skirt and a top, and everything. The fibers are cotton, like we talked last time, and something that's not synthetic, because the synthetic will really help. It comes to the point of almost melting, so you really smell it. It's really toxic, and it's really not a good thing to wear into lodge. It's just uncomfortable. It smells and it's sticky. Whereas cotton, you get wet from the sweat, but it kind of, you can loosen it. You can still be sort of comfortable. So when the water pour says it's time to enter, if it's a co-ed lodge, the women go in first. So they go around. It's kind of a protocol to go in on the left side of the altar, and you don't cross this line between the altar and the fire here. That's only for the fire keeper. We don't want to break this line, this pathway for the spirits to come through from the fire, the smoke, the fire, through the pathway to the altar and into the lodge. So we come in to the left of that, and we don't cross this line here ever. That is kind of a given protocol there. And some peoples are really strict about that. Others are not, depending on your abilities. If you're disabled and you need to just crawl in however you can, that's generally fine. You might just say so ahead of time. I can't do it that way. I have to go this way. The women go in first and walk, and you crawl in. You come to the lodge door, and you either acknowledge all the directions, all creation. You go in a circle, you turn around in a circle, and then you bend down and crawl into the lodge and go to the left. Most people lean down, crawl down, or get down on your hands and knees and kiss Mother Earth. That is probably the biggest honor for Mother Earth. And then they go into the left. Once you're in the lodge, you crawl around all the way. And then the water pour sits directly across from the opening. So he'll be in the west. That is his spot. That is, no one else can sit there. All his tools of the ceremony are there, the medicines, his drum, his feather fan, his whatever he brings in, the water. That's his place. So the men sit to the left of him there. And with this size of lodge, I guess, depending on how many people you have, sometimes you don't know how many people will show up. Spirit will bring whoever needs to come to that lodge. Generally, it's easy to fit to 12 to 14 people. That's sitting really close together, but it's wide enough that you can kind of scoot behind each other if you need to, or some lodges I've been in, there's actually 2 rows of people. Which is a little harder. There's no place to lay down if you need to get out to lay down and kind of get your head out of the steam. And whoever's on that inner row next to the grandfathers is the hottest, of course, because you're closest to the rocks. So when you come in though, there's no rocks in there yet, right? You just come in and get ready. And then he'll call for the grandfathers. He'll be at his place in the west side of the lodge. And then the fire keeper will bring in the rocks, and the water pourer will state ahead of time, there's going to be so many rocks, 21 rocks for this sweat, and we'll bring in 7 for each round. So the fire keeper will know right away that we're going to bring in 7 per round. So he has like a pitchfork or a shovel. He brings in 1 rock at a time. He lays it into the front of the doorway here and kind of slides it in. There's no blankets or anything in that little space right there between the door and the fire or the pit. So then he places it into the pit, or sometimes the water pourer will take the rock with like 2 antlers and hold it and place the rocks where he wants them in the pit. And usually they place like the 4 directions first and then add the rocks in the middle and then pile up this way. Your pit has to be big enough to hold quite a few, so you can tell right away if your rocks are going to be, how they're going to sit in there. So he does that the first like 7, 28 rocks. What did I say? 21, 28. Sometimes he'll call for all the rocks to be brought in at the first round, and that's what you use for the whole ceremony. So those rocks really have to be white hot to last the whole ceremony, because they tend to cool. So when you're in your spot in the lodge and the first grandfather comes in, we all say, welcome, welcome to the grandfather. We greet each grandfather that comes in with much respect, much honor. And then the women usually, if there's women there, put the medicines on each grandfather as it comes in. Usually one will put sage, sprinkle some sage. Another person will sprinkle cedar. Another person will rub the sweet grass over the top of the rock and let it burn a little bit to get the smell of the smoke. And sometimes there might be another medicine that's given by the water pour, but those 3 are usually what starts for each rock that comes in. So he brings in the 7 rocks, or whichever was called for, and then the water pourer asks the fire keeper to bring in the water. And there's usually a water bucket out here or next to the opening here to the entrance. And the water pourer will bring the water bucket in, and then as he brings the water bucket in to hand over to the water pourer, he touches the grandfathers with the rock. So we have that connection of spirit, of grandfather, of Mother Earth, of the water and the air. We have all the elements there together. And then he touches the rocks with that and then hands over the pail to the water pourer. And then things get going. He starts with his prayers. He might be silent for a few minutes or a few seconds, and then he will start with his prayers. He will generally put a dipper for each direction on the stones, and it could be of just a little bit of water. It could be full dipper full, which means you're going to be really full of hot steam right away the first round. And it just depends on what he feels, what spirit has talked to him and said, you know, have some new people here, maybe keep it down a little bit the first round so we won't put a whole dipper. Our water pour uses a buffalo horn for a dipper. You can use anything you want. You can use a wooden dipper. I've seen metal dippers. I've seen just different things, but usually a horn or something natural is what it's kind of preferred, I think.
Elizabeth,
If
I
I
have a
could-
question.
Yes.
So once the water is brought in and the curtain is closed and it's completely black in there?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yes. Yes, the water pour asks for the door to be closed. And see how it's the flap up there on top? The person, it's usually one of the men that are sitting by the door, is the doorkeeper. And he reaches out and pulls that down, and then the fire keeper will make sure that the canvas and everything is completely on the outsides of the doorway here, so there's no light coming in. So yes, thank you, Rodney. That's extremely important to close the lodge. And then, yes, it's completely black in there, except for you have a little glow from the rock at this point. So you still can kind of see people around for that little bit while the rocks are still really hot. And it's such a glow, it's such a luminescence inside. You feel the spirits, you feel the heat, you feel each other. It puts you in a state right away where you are welcoming in whatever is going to happen during this lodge. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah, so sorry about that. Then he puts medicines of his own that he's brought in for this lodge. And he usually has like 4 or 5 different ones that he feels are necessary for this lodge, or once brought in, he may use them all. He may not use them all right away. He may use some later. And we don't always know what the medicines are. It's up to him and spirit what he puts on the grandfathers. But sometimes they are sparkly dust, and when they hit the rocks, it's like seeing the Star Nation. It's just sparkles and sparkles and sparkles on the rocks. It's just so beautiful. And then he'll use like yerba cinta or something, one of those that you just kind of rub on the rocks, and it gives you the smoke from that smell, that scent, that aroma, and it fills the lodge, and you breathe in deeply. These are healing properties. These are, like, I have bad lungs, so some of the medicine that he would use, one of them is called grandmother root, and it is so opening and cleansing, and it's just wonderful. And after lodge, you smell like that, those medicines for like 4 days afterwards. It's wonderful. It stays with you. I think it's great. So his prayers is kind of like my opening prayer. That would be his prayer, inviting all the ancestors, your spirit guides, anybody that you want to invite in while he's praying. You can pray at the same time. He gives thanks for all the creation, and he sets the framework for this full ceremony. He then he'll say the prayer, and he will sing a song or two with his drum and bring that power in. Sometimes it's an eagle song, sometimes it's the brother song like the coda. It just depends on what he feels at that time. So he's playing the drum and singing, and we're listening. And we're just like watching the rocks, the glow of the rocks, and we're just getting to feel the atmosphere, what's happening inside. And you can actually feel the energy moving. the energy goes around and around, and the hotter it gets and the more songs that are sung, the stronger it gets. It's like, I don't know. You know how when you're in the water and you feel the water moving against you on your skin? That's a little bit how it feels like, is the power. You can feel it moving around you. Let's see. So I was going to mention about the steam. So most lodges are kind of, this one here on the picture is kind of tall, but they're generally the same dome shape, and they're kind of short over you, near you. Some people build lodges that are taller that you can actually stand up in. And that's kind of frowned on in some traditions. And other traditions, you're supposed to, you know, stay on the ground, be humble and all that. But a lot of people like to stand up because the heat, the major heat rises. So it's hotter at the top of the lodge. So some people do that as more suffering for them, and more, they feel that they are suffering more for the people that way. However, you get plenty of steam by sitting on the ground, believe me. And as soon as the steam starts rising, you can feel it hit your face, and you're going, oh, wow. And you can feel it just rising up this way. And the first round sometimes can be really hot, and other times it can be just kind of getting you into that space and not quite unbearable yet. One thing the steam does is unify us all together in that space. We're all surrounded by the same thing. I wanted to talk about the water pourer. He's not just in there pouring water on the rocks and saying prayers and singing songs. He is what Shahawan calls a hollow bone. He is the conduit for the spirit coming in, for the spirit of the people there, of what's happening in the lodge. He is responsible for taking care of us. He knows what's coming in that lodge. Okay, so he knows if there's harmful people bringing harmful thoughts in. He works with spirit, and the spirit will show him if somebody's in trouble, somebody can't breathe, somebody's not handling it well. He will know who that person is, and he will call for all my relations, open the door. And he will let that person, have some air come in, have some cool air come in, or he'll allow that person to leave. And like I said before, there's no judgment. Sometimes your body is just, kind of put into shock right away, and you might not be able to handle it right now, or your heart might not be able to handle it. That's okay. We can go out and we can come back in. It's up to us, but he is responsible for knowing what's happening in the lodge. I like to call him the boss. He's the boss. So he will call the rounds. He will give everyone an opportunity to pray for each round. And I don't know. There's things that happen for him that we have no idea what is happening. We don't feel it. We don't see it. We don't hear it, but he does. And he knows if something's going wrong or sideways, he'll call it off. He'll stop it. Or he'll ask someone to leave. Somebody can come into your lodge, unfortunately, and wish harm upon everybody. And this really can be detrimental. I've had it happen at one circumstance, and it's ugly. And he has to take care of that. He has to open that lodge, let that spirit out, let that person out, let that energy out, and let it go to the fire and be dispersed, because we don't want it in there, right? There's a lot of things that he's responsible for inside the lodge and outside the lodge. And unfortunately, if he feels that you're not a good fit for this family, he can tell you not to come back. He has that right. So this isn't just a sauna, like going to the gym and sitting in a sauna. This is spiritual. This is sacred. Things happen in here. It combines the spiritual, the physical, the mental, and the emotional. And so when the prayers start, like when he opens the door for the east, he'll bring in all the colors of the east, which is red, and he will bring in all the animals, the red fox, the red horse, the red bunny, the red dog. He'll bring in everything that is the color red. So he doesn't, some people have an animal that sits in that doorway, like the red deer, maybe. And then, that's the watcher for that doorway. And then when he'll call the doorway and he'll say, this is the doorway of the infant of our lives. This is the doorway of the feminine aspect of life. And so he'll kind of set you up for what brings you to mind of what you want to pray about. And sometimes the women, he always starts the person praying going to the left, right? It's the sun way again. So this is usually the women's side. And sometimes we'll sing the water song right away, just to put that energy there. And then each person, when they're done praying for what they want to pray for at that point, will say all my relations, or amen, or aho, or something to let the next person know that you're done praying. And then he will take your prayers that you just said and send them to Great Spirit in his words. He'll send them where they need to be. I don't know what he says. And then the next person can start. And then you go across, and then all the men pray, and then it gets back around to the water pourer. And each person has the opportunity to pray. You don't have to say it out loud. You can say, I'll pray, give my prayers in silence, or you can sing a song, or you can play the drum or your rattle. You can do what is necessary for you to do for that round. So while everybody is listening, you're listening to them, but you're listening to yourself. So you're kind of still in your prayer mode, or you might be thinking of other things while the other person's talking. It's not like you're just really paying attention. Sometimes what they're saying really talks to you and speaks to your heart. So you really listen to what he is saying or she is saying that can help you too. Oh, I really resonate to that. I really understand what that feels like. I want to pray for that too. So you share your prayers with each other. You're also giving to the spirit world, right? Your ancestors, everybody that is there with you, but you're also sharing with each other. So you're teaching, you're learning from each other as well. Oh, another point, whoever calls the lodge and asks for lodge, lets the water pourer know that they want to call for lodge. The water pourer or lodge keeper will, if he feels right away that there's something that you need to bring or that you need to do before lodge, he will tell you at that point. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Elizabeth, I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said that the person who is leading the lodge, is that like a medicine person?
Basically,
It's not just a spiritual person. It's not, it's a, I mean, if you became ill or something like that, is there someone outside the lodge or that could care for you, or
the water pour is really the caregiver. He can be a shaman, he can be a medicine man, he can be it might be the lodge is on his land too. It might be like our water pourer. I would call him a medicine man, but he's not. He's Blackfoot, but he's not a shaman. You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit of difference. He is a spiritual person.
right,
I ran a grandmother's lodge. I am not a shaman,
right,
but
okay.
I feel like when you are a leader, you have been taught how to be a leader.
What I wondered is there are many like older people, this going to the sweat is like, it's
Yes.
become commercial.
Yes.
It's become a bit commercial. And what I wondered is, a lot of people have respiratory problems, they have heart problems, they have high blood pressure problems, that kind of thing. Are there people there to care for people that have to come out of the lodge that are in distress, or is it every person?
The biggest thing, yeah, but I think the biggest thing is if you're in distress, you interrupt the whole thing and you say, all my relations open the door. I have to leave. And that door is opened immediately. There's no question. That door is open. And it's usually by the man sitting right next to the door. That's the doorkeeper. And that door is thrown open and you crawl out.
Yeah, because there have been times people can't crawl out on their own. They need help.
Oh, well, there would be help. There would be no question about that.
Okay.
The firekeeper would come. The water pourer would get up and help you. Yeah.
Okay. And those people would care for the person.
Yes,
who
absolutely.
came out of the sweat lodge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just wondered if, if there were people there, who was responsible for caring.
Well, that is your lodge keeper and the water pourer and the firekeeper.
Okay.
But like there might be a woman in there who's a nurse. There might be, everybody cares for everybody, really. It's not like, well, you're on your own, suffer.
Okay.
I have breathing problems and heart problems. And sometimes my heart just starts going nuts. It's like, oh, something's, not sitting right now. So I'm going to ask to leave. And I might go out for the rest of that round. I might sit out another round. I might come back in just for the fourth round. Or I might not come back in at all. It just depends. A friend of mine who has heart problems, he didn't even make it through the first round one time. He says, my heart is going crazy. I've got to get out, And so you're sitting by the fire, you're with the firekeeper. There might be other people that are sitting by the fire as well. Or the water pourer will say what you need to do. Now, I've had the water pourer in other lodges tell me, go out and lay on the grass. If there's a grassy area, lay on the grass and cool off on the grass itself, or drink lots of water. Oh, I forgot the water. You're supposed to start drinking water like the day before lodge, like all day. Lots of water before you go into lodge. I'm so sorry, I forgot that. it's very important to be hydrated before you start lodge. You don't want to go in with a full stomach. You don't want to go in completely dehydrated. And you don't want to eat a ton of sugar before you go into lodge. That can make you sick with the heat. If you go in with a stomach full of food and it hasn't digested and you have a full belly and you hit that heat, they say that it'll start cooking in your stomach, but I don't know if that's true. Yeah, Sherry.
I was wondering, you were talking about rounds. What is a round?
Okay. There's 4 directions, right? We always enter from the east. We always pray from the east, and then we move around the circle. The rounds are when the doors are open for each direction. So the first round is called the east door. The second round is the door of the south. The third round is the west. And the fourth round is the north. Those are called the rounds. There's always 4 rounds. Sometimes someone may call for a 5th round, and that can be called a warrior round, where people stay in, people leave that don't want to stay for a 5th round. That can be for a specific prayer for everybody to pray about, or it's usually super hot and you're just kind of worn out by that time, so it's pushing through again a little bit harder, a little bit further.
So how long is each round, Elizabeth? Is it an hour or?
It's more like generally probably 15-20 minutes.
Oh, okay. And then everybody gets to get out.
Yes.
Everybody gets out and gets
Yes.
right there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Woo.
So yeah, some people don't ever get out. Some people stay. Now here's another thing, depending on your tradition that you're in there. Some people allow you to have water in the lodge, have a water bottle. The tradition I was taught was no water is allowed in the lodge. You drink your water outside between rounds, and you cool off, you lay on the grass. We used to have a big thing that you could actually jump in the water and cool your whole body off, like a little pool thing. But it just depends. I asked one time if the water was allowed in the lodge, and they said no. You can drink all the water you want between rounds. And then other lodges say, yes, you can keep a water bottle with you. You may, some people may really need it. So it just kind of depends. You have to ask the water pourer what is allowed. If you can't stand it and you have to get out to get water, then you ask for the door to be open. You say, all my relations, open the door. So you're respecting all relations that are there, all your ancestors, all the spirits, all the everything. And you say, all my relations, open the door. And they open the door. Now the water pourer may ask you, are you going to come back? Do you want to stay out? Because we don't want to leave the door open too long. We don't want to break that energy for too long at that point if it's in the middle of the round, So what did you say? I talked over you. Did you say something, Susan?
Well, yes. I mean, I think that was a very important piece, that each round is like 15 minutes to a half hour tops.
Probably. It depends on how many people pray. Now,
Okay.
some people have a lot to pray about and take a long time.
Okay.
And you're sitting there going, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah,
But
I usually end up with the long-winded people.
yeah, I have been in them when I've been in them when the rocks get cold because they haven't quit yet, you know. It's like, I'm freezing now, let's get going. It's like,
So when
and I
you,
don't know why the water pour doesn't say, okay, are we ready to move on yet? But he doesn't interrupt them. I don't know.
and then when you get out, how much time do you have before the next round?
That's up to the water pourer. They usually give you a little bit of time, like to get your water. Sometimes you have to go to the bathroom. You might
Okay,
have to go find a potty tree, or, you know, if there's a facility there or whatever. I like to keep a blanket out on the chair for myself when I come out, because when you're really hot and then you come out into that cool air, you're freezing. So it's nice to have a blanket ready to wrap around you to keep that cold off you. You can stand by the fire as well, you know, so we're maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 at the most.
okay, yeah, just enough to,
Kind of regenerate yourself, drink a
Right.
bunch of water, because you can tell if you haven't drank enough water, let me tell you. You can really feel the difference. So, yeah.
okay, good, thank you.
Elizabeth, I have a
Yeah,
question.
so everyone is taken care of. What, Rodney?
So when you leave on the west side of the path?
Yes. Yes. Some traditions won't allow that. Some traditions make you go back around where the water pour is, like you go back around to the counterclockwise, and out the door the way you came. I've been in lodges that have that tradition. For us, we just go out the west side as we came in. That would be our exit as well, on the west side of the altar. And some lodges that I've been to, one in particular, we came out, and whoever came out of the lodge, here, quit pointing with my hand, stands on the side of the pathway here in a line, and then the water pourer, when he comes out, he thanks everyone and like shakes your hand or gives you a hug, and, you know, thank you for coming, thank you for your prayers. But not everybody does that. It just depends. Everybody's different. Everyone is different. But I always thought that was really wonderful. You're all hot and sweaty and dirty from laying on Mother Earth and all kinds of stuff. And here he comes and gives you a hug. You know, it's like, okay. But it's great. Okay, so the doors. The first round of the east, he calls, and that's I should say, when we're in this womb, it's the womb of Mother Earth, we're being rebirthed. So all of this that's happening in the lodge, all this energy, all the things that you see and hear are all part of the birthing process. It's like going through the birth canal. So we are being rebirthed, and when we come out of that lodge, we're a new person. We're a new spiritual person. And so everything that happens starts from the east side being the infancy of your life. And I might pray for all the infants, all the little children of the world. I hope that they find peace and love in their homes, and food and shelter, and, you know, something like that, just as an example. Or there might be an infant in my family that was just born, and we pray for, you know, somebody who just gave birth, or, you know, anything like that. And we also honor the female aspect of ourselves, of all people, and what that means. Like, you might honor your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, all grandmothers, all the way back. You might say your sisters, your aunties, everybody that's important to you in the female aspect. And So everybody goes around to the men, and then when that door is closed, or before the door is closed, the water pourer will sing a song, and use his drum or his rattle, and he will sing a song at this point to close that door. And then he'll say, everybody says it all together, generally, all my relations open the door. And then they open the door, and then whoever wants to get out can get out. And then some people stay in that prayer state the whole time. Just depends. And then when we come back in, that same thing happens. He says his prayers for the South. He calls in the color of the South, which is yellow. And he might call in all the yellow animals, all the yellow, anything in creation that he feels called in at that point. And this round is the teenager round. And I always pray for my granddaughter at this point. Sometimes she's going through heck right now, and sometimes she needs extra prayer, or she's having trouble at school, or she's being bullied, or so we pray for the teenagers in our families and in the world, the young adults, basically, and give them strength and power. And then the same thing happens. He sings a song and closes that door. And then when we go through the West, this is the adult. Some people call this round the healing round. And you can ask for, in your prayers, you can ask for healing for something for yourself. Mostly we've been praying for everybody else and people that need prayer, and our grandfather or our grandmother or anybody and everybody. But the third round is like a healing prayer for yourself. What's happening with you? What do you need right now? Ask the Great Spirit for this help. Ask for this healing. Ask for this aspect to be healed right now. Taken away, dispense stuff, take it away from us. And then that door will be closed. It's considered the introspection door, the looks within. You look really within your own self, your own dark corners, and you pull out what you need to be healed, and you lay it out. And then when we come in for the north door is white. Oh, the west door was black. Now, these colors are all representative of the colors of humanity. That's what they are, is the yellow, red, black, and white. So we're bringing all humanity together. And the white is the elders, your elder years, your elder people, your teachers, the elders in your family. You bring them honor and prayer. And the elders of the world, the leaders, the leadership of the world, the leadership of our country. I mean, everything that is important to you and important to all of us. And that north brings wisdom. And the color is white. Now, during this time, all these prayers have been held inside the lodge. And at this point, we get ready for the fourth round. If you went out after the third round, you come back in, it's a real short break if you need to get out, but usually we kind of stay in between the third and fourth round. And then the door is shut. The door can be opened and let those prayers out, let that energy out to the fire. Everything that was prayed at that round is let out each time, right? So every time the door is open. Sometimes they'll only open the door about this far off the ground just to let some air in to cool down a little bit. But it actually doesn't break that energy. You're still really in that energy going around you all the time. So when we get to the fourth round, in our lodge, it's a silent round. Nobody prays out loud. He will call in the fourth round with a song or a prayer or both. And then this point, you are really hot, okay? these rocks have been brought, I forgot that, but rocks have been brought in each round, right? The grandfathers were blessed, the grandfathers were given their medicines. So between each round, when he calls the next round to start, the firekeeper will bring in the next 7 rocks or 8 rocks, whatever it is. And then we do the same thing. We put the medicines on. We say, welcome, welcome to each grandfather that comes in. And that happens for each round. By the 4th round, you have all these hot rocks in there, and you might have 20 some rocks in there by now that are hot, that are red hot. And so on the 4th round, and the door is shut, you might even lay down on the ground if there's room. Usually you can find a way to find room, and sometimes everybody lays down. The closer you are to Mother Earth, the cooler it is, right? So even when it's still hot, it might be a little bit cooler next to the ground. And it's also relaxing a little bit. You can kind of relax in that moment. But then he will sing his song, and then he will pour the rest of the water on the rocks. So your steam is full force. It is hot. It is uncomfortable, to say the least. It is everything that you think a sweat lodge is in that moment. Some people have the lodge for the reason of suffering. I think we do suffer a little bit, but it's not to the point where it's detrimental to you, generally. It's important to have that breakthrough of passing through something. And I've been in a lodge or two where it's been so hot that I thought my skin was going to sizzle. But it doesn't. It just, it just feels that way. But you pray harder and you pray more and you give everything you have from your inner being to Great Spirit, to Creator, to that inner circle that you're in right there. And pretty soon you don't notice it anymore. And that's true. You pass through that heat, that suffering, and then you don't notice it anymore. It's a beautiful thing. It's like you've gone through the canal, right? So he will sing a song. I don't know how he does it. He sits up the whole time, sings a song with all that steam and heat and suffering, and sings a full song. I just don't know how he does it. I couldn't do it. I can't even hardly breathe at this point. So it's like, I don't know how you sing, but then he does. Spirit helps him sing, and he can be singing and laying down too. I've seen that happen too. So when the 4th round is over and the prayers are done and he opens the door and the air comes in, it's like a complete release. Everything that has happened, been said, been felt, been seen in the lodge. Like I said last time, you can see things in there sometimes. You can see lights sparkling. You can see beams coming through. You can see, you can sense the ancestors next to you. You can feel the little people. You can sense that they're doing their dance around the rocks. You can see visions. You can have messages given to you. Sometimes someone is sitting there next to you that you don't know, that wasn't in there before, but it might be an ancestor, it might be a passed on relative, but you feel them there. You can almost see them, or you can see them, or you see light. I don't know. There's just so many things that each person feels and sees different things. It's not everybody sees the same light. or the same beam coming in the top of the lodge. There's this white light that comes down and just goes right to the grandfather. But not everybody sees it, or, you know, some people will, some people won't. The other person might see something totally different. So it just depends on what's happening for you personally. So when that round is over and he calls the door to be open, that's the end of the sweat. And people can leave, or some people, like, I'll stay in and just lay there for a while and just kind of like relax and just let it all seep, you know, seep out. Because the fire's pretty much done outside. You know, you have a little heat there, but when you get done, you're cold, or you want your blanket and you go out, and everybody kind of is thankful and hug each other and thank Great Spirit for this lodge, for this gathering, this circle. Very powerful time. And then you're given the opportunity to change back into your clothes, your dry, nice dry clothes. Your hair's wet, you're dripping everywhere. And, you know, some people change at their car, or some people go in like a shelter or something that's put up for us, and you can change in there or whatever. Nobody really pays any attention. It's no big deal. Then the blankets are brought out so that they can dry over the next day or so. And any of his tools and medicines are brought out for him. He's kind of taken care of by someone in the lodge that way. Yeah, Sherry.
How can some people dress? So you did say that they could be completely undressed if it's same sex, but how, if they didn't decide to be completely undressed, what would they just wear natural fibers, or how
Yeah.
would they dress?
Right. The men usually just wear shorts. Like they go, you know, the long shorts to the knees or something like that. And a towel, you always bring a towel with you. You're sitting on blankets. First they had laid down the cedar boughs and then the blankets. And so you're sitting on something that's kind of soft, you know, comfortable. And then you have your towel to wipe the sweat off, or you can put the towel over your head to stop some of the steam, right? Like breathing in, or just to kind of cools it down just a touch. The women wear shorts and a tank top generally, or some wear leggings and tops, but some of those are synthetic materials and they don't go well in lodge, I don't think. It's better to wear a natural, like a cotton or a cotton blend of something that is breathable. Not necessarily, you wouldn't want to wear polyester in there, that kind of thing. Some traditions, the women have to wear a skirt and have their arms covered, and also wear a shawl. That's kind of how I was taught. You can take the shawl off once you're in there, if it's a co-ed type of lodge. So you're being, you're not showing off for the men is basically why you're completely covered. But nowadays it's more and more people, more and more women just wear shorts and a tank top and bring their towel. That's it. So it just depends on your lodge, I think, what you're comfortable with. Nobody goes, not like one person goes in naked and everybody else is dressed. That's usually doesn't work that way. So you're fine. If you don't want to go in naked and everybody else is, it's fine. Nobody says anything. You could wear something like a bikini or a swimsuit or shorts, even though everybody else might be going in full naked. but it just depends. It's up to you. And usually my experience is that nobody says anything, that that's what you're comfortable with. That's what you're comfortable with. That's okay. Just come in and pray, just come in and pray. Okay, so at this point, it's feast time. Everybody has brought food to share with each other. Some people bring fruit trays or cheese and crackers, or somebody might make a soup and bring a hot soup to eat afterwards. And it's kind of a visiting time and sharing time. One thing I can say is that some people will talk about what happened in Lodge, which is fine. But what happens at Lodge stays at Lodge. So you're not gossiping about each other outside of that circle. You're not saying, oh, this happened or something weird happened to other people outside of our Lodge family, because just like anything else, it's a private thing, it's a sacred thing, and it stays there. So what is given there stays there, if that makes sense. Oh, there's just so much that can happen. So many messages that can come. I think I've covered just about everything. There's a lot to it. There's levels of teachings here. Like just being in the darkness. No one can see you. So you're not looking at those eyes like they're judging you. Nobody can see you, so you're more open and more able to speak your truth. You know what I mean? You're not hiding. You're in there to speak your truth. So, I was going to say quick, there's different kinds of lodges, different reasons to hold a lodge. And someone that calls the lodge keeper and say, I need healing. I need a healing for my back. I need a healing for my leg, or I need a healing for my spirit. I'm depressed. I'm not in a good place. And if it's a healing lodge, it's a little different than just a spiritual lodge or a community lodge. You come, you bring 2 witnesses that you know, that love you, that take care of you, that know what you want to bring good for you, and the water pourer. So there's just 4 of you in that lodge, and you pray each round. Instead of just concentrating on the directions, you concentrate on the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. And you pray all for your whole body and spirit to be healed. And those 2 witnesses, it depends. The first 2 rounds can be just you and the water pourer. And then the 2 rounds, the other 2 witnesses can come in, or they can stay in the whole time, depending on what you prefer. And that doesn't take as long as a regular community lodge, but it can be extremely powerful, extremely healing. Other reasons might be for a marriage. Some people might call to be have a sweat before they're married, to let go of past relationships, past feelings, past problems, the acceptance of each other. They can be in there themselves with just the water pourer, and they speak for the first 2 rounds and pray for their past lives, their what's happening now and their future, what they hope for the future. And then they can bring in guests or friends in the last 2 rounds, and they all pray together and are here for that couple. It's a really awesome experience, usually very powerful, and sometimes very enlightening as well. Sometimes things will come up that weren't expected at all, and that has to be healed. So they are wonderful opportunities for healing. Is there any more questions? Can I try and answer? Sherry?
So can anyone at any age attend lodge? Maybe not like women on their moon or pregnant women, I would imagine. But is there any other guidance, like what age can they start or anything like that?
You can bring your child in as young as infant. You might leave them in there with you for maybe part of the first round. If they start feeling uncomfortable, you can take them out or have them taking them. I've had some beautiful lodges with the children in there with their parents. It's amazing. Totally different energy is brought in with the children. Any age can come in, any age. I think a lot of times, like the kids might come in for the first round or just the set, and we make it an easier heat level for them. Although it's hot, they feel it. They usually want out pretty soon. So it's not like the whole lodge generally when they're little. Teenagers will usually stay. They want to experience it, so they usually stay. Women on their moon are not allowed in lodge. White buffalo calf woman in the Lakota tradition gave the lodge to the men. The sweat lodge was for men. And it was because they had no way to cleanse themselves like women do monthly. So the lodge was one of the 4 sacred ceremonies given. And so when it was allowed for the men and then eventually the women, but the women weren't allowed because on their moon, because they're so powerful. The energy in a sweat lodge, as powerful as it is nothing like if there happens to be a woman on her moon in there. I mean, the energy is so strong and so heavy and so powerful that you can't hardly crawl out. I've had this happen one time where someone was on their moon and nobody knew it, and she came in anyway. She didn't know she wasn't supposed to. So women have their own time. They can come to the lodge, but they can sit out by the fire and hold space for everybody that's in the lodge. And that's usually what happens. Or they'll bring the food, or they'll help outside the lodge, but they just can't come in the lodge. I think other than that, I don't think there's any reason that anybody is not allowed to come in. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Colleen, I see it. You have a question?
No.
You do too. I can feel it.
Well, I think it was answered already. It was about kind of the order of things, like in the beginning, at what point do you walk in the lodge, and the ceremonies that have to happen first and stuff. But I think that's been cleared up.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I can't.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Come on. I feel it.
Well, because we're older women doesn't mean we don't have our time each month.
No months, yeah.
Our moments.
No moon.
Oh, yeah, no. So you can come in anytime. Yeah.
Okay, not
There's
limited.
no restriction. Yeah, there's no restriction.
Not
That's
limited.
because you are an honored elder at this point. You've gone through your adulthood. Us women are gifted that time because now we are in the elder stage of life.
Yeah.
And we're very, very honored.
Mhm.
I can't say this enough. The elders in our lives should be honored and respected and held up and not forgotten.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's very important to me this day and age when we see, well, even the homeless on the street, so many elderly, so many people are forgotten. And the families don't take care of their elders anymore. They send them off to some nursing home somewhere. They don't take care of them, at least in this country, like they do other countries.
Very true.
That's a whole nother topic, but everyone is welcome in any stage of your life, any stage.
Mhm.
I've had people come in that are just going through, who are addicted and coming out of that and trying to go through, I can't think of the word. What is my word?
Oh, withdrawal.
Recovery.
Recovery, thank you. I've had some people come in that were on drugs like 3 or 4 days before, but they haven't for that 4 days and come in, and it's quite amazing what can happen for them in that moment. It can be a very healing and good place to start for them.
Oh.
I don't want you coming in high, but to come in and say, this is what I want to be healed. I want to go through this process. I want to go through recovery.
For sure.
You know, there's lodges just for people who are in recovery. That happens a lot.
This process, this is all new to Colleen and me. This is amazing stuff.
Yeah.
It is, and I have to say it's only this much that it's about, and that it's for, and that what happens with you personally and with your friends in there. And once you've come to this lodge, you're accepted and you're a lodge family now. You're always a family. You might go to other lodges as well, but you kind of have a home lodge, it's kind of your buddy system. And you're there for each other, kind of like our group is here. This is basically a lodge. This is a circle. And I'm very thankful for this circle.
For sure.
Yeah. We just don't have the fire going right now. We can look at it.
Hey, can I ask you, I think Sherry asked the question, what about pregnant women?
I think that's up to the mother. I've seen women come in pregnant. I think they would want to be careful and not get too hot. They might come in for the first part of a round or just come in and join between rounds and go in while the door is open. I've seen that, where they just enjoy the heat and the grandfathers and the energy that's there, but not stay in for all 4 rounds would be my suggestion. I'm not sure what the protocol is on that, though. I would think you wouldn't want to get completely uncomfortable at that stage of life. But I've seen women bring in their newborns pretty quickly after birth too. So it's wonderful just to have them start.
What about people like, on blood pressure medicine and all and other medicines? I mean, they aren't recommended
That's
to go in
fine.
the lodge, huh?
That's fine. You don't give up your medicines that way, no.
Okay, I was just curious.
Just the recreational stuff. Yeah. No, because I'm on blood pressure medicine and heart medicine and all that crap.
Yeah, I realized that, when you get in there, I mean, you sweat, it'll sweat a lot of the medicine out of you, like I can't take I can take echinacea, but I can't take echinacea and golden seal.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
golden seal pulls out any kind of chemicals or medicine that's in you. So you end up having a little bit of trouble. I had problems so I had to stop taking that medicine, but definitely that would, I mean, you wouldn't lose it all, obviously. It's just for a short
I don't
period of time.
think so. It's never bothered me.
Okay.
I have used to go to the Puyallup Lodge. They made a tea with something in it that I don't remember, or wasn't told, I don't remember now. But you could drink it between the rounds, and it was for your heart, to keep your heart settled down.
Oh, that sounds good.
And they brought that every time. So that was something in there. It was a veterans lodge, so there was a lot of older people there as well. Everybody could come, but it was considered a veterans lodge. And so that tea was pretty important at that lodge, so I don't know who made it or brought it or whatever, but it was always available. So there's just different things for different lodges, I guess, would say. But no, I don't think you don't quit your medicine. I asked that the first time too, and said, no, you don't quit your medicines for your health. So you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, what about, I mean, obviously I've had knee replacement and hip replacement and stuff. I would have a hard time. I couldn't get down on my knees to get into a lodge because I'm not
you
supposed
can
to
kind of sit, if you can sit down on your legs and kind of scoot in this way, you can stand up as best you can, but you do have to bend over.
Yeah, I can bend over, but
you can do that too.
Yeah, if I could, but once I get down, I have trouble getting up because
I know. I hear you. I have a friend that brings a pillow to sit on too because of her back. So yeah, it's okay. Whatever you need to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not judged at all. At least in my experience. So with that, I'll give us the closing prayer. Creator, thank you for this gathering today, this circle. Thank you for the honoring our words and hearing our prayers. I release all the invited ones who joined us and thank them all for their guidance and teachings. And thank you for this sacred circle, and bring each of us back safely again. From the doorway in to the doorway out, I ask blessings on this circle. Aho Mitakuye Oasin, which means all my relations. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks for the questions, you guys.